Just finished week 61 of the trading challenge, trading from $100 to $1,000,000. We're currently at 19.9k, which is a 19.3k decrease from last week when we were at 39k. So we've lost about half of the portfolio in just 1 week because the market's again absolutely obliterated. So let's go over the portfolio real quick and then we'll look at the trades and then in the general market. So on Pulse Chain, I've got like $500-ish, basically just in stables. And on my main bag, I have still my MOG position. The only thing that's changed here is I paid off around $10,000. So obviously I took that out of MOG, paid off some of the debt to lower the liquidation because basically the market's getting wrecked. So it was at around a 70 mil liquidation. It's now around 47 mil. And in my opinion, if we go down there is no chance of recovery and it's obviously over. So it doesn't even matter anyway. Just lose it all, get liquidated, move on. But right now we had a pretty bad week on MOG. We're down 26%, and I think from the last video we're probably down a bit more than that because I think I recorded somewhere around there. So yeah, be down about 30% since then, and obviously we were on leverage, so I lost like 40 to 50% of the portfolio this week. So yeah, terrible week, and it's down stupidly bad. As far as trading goes, I took only 3 trades and I lost about $100. Yeah, I'm not going to show these charts, but yeah, basic trading is pretty dry and it's shit right now, obviously, because the whole market is getting obliterated. The only way to really make money is just shorting fucking Bitcoin. Yeah, so let's take a look at some of the bigger stuff. So Bitcoin is down stupidly bad this week. I mean, down what 10% on the body, and now down to the wick it dipped about 15%. So yeah, you can tell obviously the market's got destroyed on that, and it's not looking good at all. Pretty much everything, like, it's kind of 50-50. There's a lot of indicators now that are showing that the cycle is over. Some of the bigger stuff, like this super trend just flipped red, obviously not a good sign at all. Usually is pretty accurate, and a lot of the time it means that is your cycle top. As far as the pattern goes, obviously you had this like rising wedge, broke out of that. You also had your 50-week SMA, which broke down, which every single time was the top. So yeah, not looking good. The only thing which really you can be hopeful for on Bitcoin is that it just goes back up to this 200 SMA, which most of the time, well, every cycle so far has kind of retested that level. So if I show you 2021, you can see when it broke down, you did get a retest up to that, and then it went to zero after. So maybe we see something like that. It does look like if it was to do something like that, it would make a head and shoulders on Bitcoin, and that would be top, like overall, the whole thing. Alternatively, the bullish case is obviously you kind of do that, you fake out the head and shoulders, everyone thinks it's going to zero, and then you break up to all-time high. I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. We're just here for the ride, and we'll see what happens. But overall, things are looking a lot more bearish than bullish. It does look over. That is your 4-year cycle top as well. Like, if the 4-year cycle does play out, this is exactly where it would top out pretty much within a month or so. So yeah, looking pretty bad. This dip's also a lot bigger than the previous dips. It's down 36% right now, whereas the others were 31 or 32 and 33%. So yeah, we got a bigger dip. We're at the 4-year end of the cycle, and it's looking pretty shit. The bullish side of things is obviously it makes sense to kind of dump after the 4-year cycle. You'd get all the people out that believe in the 4-year cycle, and then you'd go on to make all-time highs after. But it's just kind of, who the fuck knows. But yeah, another thing to look at is Ethereum, and Ethereum is down pretty bad. It's looking absolutely shocking. So the super trend on Ethereum has flipped red, which is another bearish thing we have going for us. A weekly super trend flip on Ethereum basically means at least 100 days of shitty price action, which brings us to March next year before we might see any kind of green. do you think the cycle is going to last that long? I don't know. Nobody does. Uh, you know, who the fuck knows? But yeah, every time the super trend flips red, it's pretty much 100 days of shitty price action, and towards the end of that 100 days, you might, if you're bullish, you're going to flip above it. So you have like 1 or 2 weeks of pretty strong move up. Every time it's at least 100. Like, yeah. So, not a good thing to see, but it also does usually bottom pretty close to when it flips, if it does plan on going higher, like here. So as soon as it flipped red, this was your bottom. It just went sideways and bled for, 100 days. So that would take you to March next year. Obviously, that's not a good thing. The markets are looking absolutely terrible. Shocking, right? Same for the stock market. Looks topped out. Although, you never really know with the stock market because this thing just goes up and to the right. So yeah, I don't know. I'm more on the bearish side of things, to be honest. I think it does look cooked across the board. But I've got what I've got left in the market, and we'll see where it goes. One bullish chart that we could look at is others slash BTC. So this is like the weird thing right now because although everything's tanking, altcoins technically are showing some strength, right? So you have it's green for this month on the others BTC, and also if we have a look at the MACD, this is actually like technically bullish. Like if I was just looking at this chart, I would say yeah, this is going higher. So that could mean we do get a little bit of an altcoin season. It just might mean that like it might be a bit different. So Bitcoin might have just had its run and it does nothing now, and maybe altcoins run next year, right? But overall, I am pretty bearish on Bitcoin. I personally don't see it making an all-time high again, but I would love to be wrong, right? Because to me, this looks completely cooked, right? And if this was, if you were trading a shitcoin that looked like this, you'd sell everything, right? This is your MACD flipping red. It looks over. Every time it does that, it's over. Your RSI was holding the level and then it broke down. So if we go on like the weekly, you can see it was holding around this area before and it broke down below that. So yeah, and the last time it did that in 2021, that also, as soon as it broke down, that was it. So yeah, Bitcoin doesn't look good to me at all. My only like kind of cope and hope is it makes a little bit of an exit pump or just holds value for a bit, and then you might see an altcoin season in that. But yeah, altcoins genuinely do look a lot better. Like if I just look at these kind of charts, I think these are bullish for altcoins, right? So yeah, Bitcoin dominance is legit a head and shoulders. This is a shoulder right here, head, and then another shoulders. But then you could also make the other case of in November last year, it did make a red candle and then it just shot up to all-time highs. Like this is technically bearish in November 2020, and then it shot up to all-time highs. Kind of similar here. That is also what Benjamin Cohen says. Is he going to be right? He's been right so far. Who the fuck knows? But yeah, I don't know. I've got very mixed opinions on this market. I do think that we'll have an exit pump regardless, right? So normally you go up to that 200 SMA on the daily, and normally you would retest these kind of levels up here, which would bring you to around 108k, and then obviously you'd make your head and shoulders if that was going to top out there. But yeah, that's personally what I see happening. We get up to 108 and then it tops out. I'll be, happy to change my opinion if we can break above 108k. But yeah, I don't know. It does look completely over to me, and I hope that is fucking bullish because I would love for it to go up and all of us have like an amazing altcoin season. But like as far as the main charts go, they look pretty cooked. Ethereum didn't even get a real run really this cycle. It just made a double top, which is absolutely terrible. Altcoins breaking down below that trend line, which is like a pretty fucking big trend line as well. All of this cycle's trend line breaking below it could be like a Jewish fake out where we bounce up. Like I said, I do think that we'll get at least an exit pump on pretty much everything regardless, right? I think Bitcoin will make its way up to 108k, and that'll be where you really have to decide, right? The only thing is like Everyone pretty much called the top, right? Like the whole of CT was bearish up here, and then it just went down, and they were all right. Usually, most people don't get it right, um, but everyone said 4-year cycle, and it's pretty much played out so far. All right. What else? I don't know. There's not really much else to look at. Bitcoin looks bearish. Altcoins do look bullish against Bitcoin, which is good for us, but the charts are absolutely obliterated, right? You're gonna need some fucking insane candles just to even get back to where we were. Pulse chain also looking absolutely cooked, down all-time low. I don't think it hasn't made a new low just yet, but it's right about there. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like honestly, I'm bullish on altcoins, but I'm really bearish on Bitcoin. Right? I genuinely see it going up and making like this head and shoulder pattern. Uh, but yeah, like I said, you could get an altcoin season on this exit pump, right? Or maybe we just trade sideways and maybe altcoins steal the show for like the early part of next year, and then the late part will probably be bearish. I don't know. It's anyone's guess at the end of the day, and yeah, but most of my things which I like to look at for a cycle top, at least on Bitcoin, have been hit, and it looks over to me. So yeah, that's kind of where mine's at. I'm not going to leave this money in Morg. I do think that altcoins are bullish still, regardless, and I think we'll get a little bit of a rally soon, and then we'll just see where it goes from there. Either we get a rally and then it actually takes off, or obviously it's just going to be an exit pump and everyone sells it. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all next week, and yeah, try not to get wrecked if you haven't already sold. Ta-ra.